Imagine going back to a beach you knew as a child. You remember the sand, the slope down to the water, the way the coast curved. But when you arrive, it's gone. Not washed away by a storm. Taken. Over months, trucks and barges came at night and worked the shoreline until there was nothing left to stand on. In parts of Indonesia, this didn't just erase a beach. It erased whole islands. Small ones that had sat on the map for centuries and then simply didn't. And here's the strange part. The thing they were taking is the most ordinary material on Earth. It's sand. So how do you steal a beach? Why would anyone bother? And how can the world be running out of the most common thing on it? The answer starts with a fact almost nobody stops to think about. After water, the resource humanity consumes more than any other isn't oil, it isn't coal, it's sand. Not quite the soft stuff between your toes. The sand that industry wants is coarse and angular, dredged from riverbeds, lakes, and coastlines. We pull tens of billions of tons of it out of the earth every year. It's in the concrete of every building you've ever entered, the glass in your windows, the chip in your phone, and the very ground many coastal cities are built on. So how do we run out of something this common, and why do people end up dead over it? To understand that, we have to answer three things: why most of the world's sand is useless, how much of it we actually burn through, and the black market that scarcity built. Start with why we need it at all. Sand is the skeleton of the modern world. Mix it with cement and water, and you get concrete, the second most used substance on the planet, again, after water. Melt it, and you get glass. Refine it, and you get the silicon in every processor. And when a country runs out of room, it uses sand to build more land, pouring it into the sea to make new coastline. For most of history, we treated the supply as endless. Beaches, deserts, riverbeds, sand was just there, free for the taking. But there's a catch that breaks the whole assumption. Desert sand is almost useless for construction. Wind has tumbled and polished those grains for millennia until they're too smooth and round to lock together. Concrete needs rough, angular grains that grip, which leads to something that sounds impossible. Dubai sits in the middle of one of the largest deserts on Earth, and to build its towers and its islands, it has imported sand. The one kind of sand we need most is not the kind we have most of, and demand for it is exploding. Here's the scale. Every year, the world uses somewhere around 50 billion tons of sand and gravel. That number is almost impossible to picture. So try this. It's enough sand to build a wall 27 meters high and 27 meters wide, wrapped the whole way around the planet. Every year. That makes sand the most extracted solid material on Earth, ahead of every metal and every fossil fuel. The reason is simple. The world is building faster than it ever has. Cities are rising across Asia and Africa at a pace the planet has never seen. To put it in perspective, in just 3 years, China once poured more cement than the United States used in the entire 20th century. Concrete is mostly sand, so the appetite for sand tracks that boom directly. And here's the problem underneath the number. Nature makes construction sand slowly. Rivers grinding rock into grains over thousands of years. We're taking it far faster than the Earth can replace it. So if the beaches and riverbeds can't keep up, the real question becomes, where is all this sand coming from? To see where it comes from, follow the incentives. Sand is cheap, heavy, and almost everywhere, which makes it a strange thing to fight over. But cheap and heavy is exactly the problem. Because it's low value, no one wants to pay to ship it far or mine it carefully. Because it's heavy, whoever digs closest to the building site wins. And because it's seen as just dirt, the rules around taking it are thin and barely enforced. Put those together, and you get a perfect reason to simply take it from a river, a lake, a protected beach, and sell it fast and quietly. Now scale that up to a whole country. Singapore is one of the most crowded places on Earth, so it does something most people never think about. It manufactures land. Over the past few decades, it has expanded its territory by around a quarter, pouring imported sand into the sea to make new ground. All that sand had to come from somewhere, and much of it came from its neighbors. One by one, Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia, and Vietnam restricted or banned sand exports as they watched their own coastlines leave by the barge load. This was never a few rogue diggers. It had set an entire shadow economy in motion. In several parts of the world, that shadow economy has a name. People call them Sand Mafias. In India, Illegal sand mining is one of the most lucrative and violent black markets in the country. Crews strip riverbeds around the clock, often with the quiet cooperation of people who are supposed to stop them. The damage isn't abstract. Gutting a riverbed drops the water table that farms depend on, undermines the foundations of bridges, and tears through everything living in the river. And it isn't only India. Along the coast of Morocco, whole beaches have been loaded onto trucks and carried off to feed construction, leaving bare rock behind. In Kenya, communities have fought over sand in dry riverbeds. And in Indonesia, the mining was so aggressive that by some accounts, more than 20 small islands have vanished. Think about what that means. Not damaged, not shrunk, gone. Dredged away until they slipped under the sea and were struck from the map. And when something becomes this profitable, the people who ask questions about it become a problem. Officials who tried to enforce the law have been threatened and attacked. Reporters who investigated it have been beaten. Some have been killed. Behind the tidy phrase Sand Mafia is a specific person who paid for asking a single question. Consider one of them. In June 2020, a reporter named Shubham Mani Tripathi was riding home on his motorbike in northern India. For weeks, he had been reporting on illegal sand mining along the river near Unnao. Days earlier, he had written online that he was afraid for his life. On that ride home, men on motorcycles pulled up beside him and shot him. He wasn't a soldier or a criminal. He was a local journalist who wouldn't stop filing stories, and he wasn't alone. Researchers who track these cases have tied illegal sand mining in India to dozens of deaths in just the last few years. Journalists, government officials, and ordinary villagers who stood in the way. There was no war, no headline that lasted more than a day, just a gray, ordinary resource, and a real grave at the end of it. People have died over sand, and almost no one outside their towns ever heard their names. Which brings us to the part that reframes everything. We tend to imagine resource crises as something in the future. Oil running dry, water wars, a problem for later. Sand is not later. It's already here, and we simply don't see it. Here's why it matters so much. There is no easy replacement. You can, with effort, crush rock into something usable or recycle old concrete, but nowhere near the scale the world demands, and not at the price. For now, the modern world runs on natural sand, and it doesn't come back. Sand forms over geological time as mountains erode grain by grain across thousands of years. We're spending it in real time. That deficit doesn't balance out in your lifetime or your grandchildren's. On any human scale, once it's gone, it's gone. So look at any skyline you've ever admired. Every tower, every bridge, every runway is made of billions of grains that were dug and, in many cases, stolen from a supply that's thinning out. We didn't run out of something rare. We ran out of something we were certain was infinite. The damage doesn't stop at the mine. When you strip sand from a beach or a delta, you remove the land's natural armor against the sea. Beaches absorb storms. Deltas and mangroves hold back the water. Take the sand away just as the oceans are rising, and you get coastlines that flood more easily, farmland poisoned by salt, and shorelines that slowly sink. In trying to build more, we've been quietly dismantling the defenses we already had. And demand is only climbing. As easy sand disappears, richer nations reach further for it, and even the safeguards are giving way. In 2023, after roughly 2 decades, Indonesia reopened the sea sand exports that had once helped erase its own islands. Researchers now talk openly about future conflicts over sand, the kind of thing that sounds absurd until you remember people are already dying for it. There are ways out: building with less concrete, recycling what we tear down, manufacturing sand from crushed rock, and regulating the trade so it can't hide. None of it is impossible, but right now, none of it is happening fast enough to close the gap. So step back and look at what this is really about. It isn't only sand. It's what happens when a civilization decides something is so abundant that it must be free and stops counting it entirely. We guard gold and oil and rare metals. We built no such care around the humble grain because it was everywhere, and everywhere felt like forever. By the time the beaches start disappearing, the habit of not looking is already set. So here's the question worth sitting with. Is this a problem we'll quietly engineer our way out of, the way we usually do at the last minute? Or is it the first of the slow, invisible resource crises that nobody's watching until it's too late? Either way, the next time you walk past a construction site or stand on a beach, it's worth remembering what it's actually made of and how much of it is left.